Hello, class. Okay, this is your review packet for the midterm two. Remember, the midterm two is on Tuesday. It's right here. Please read it. It's on Tuesday. Okay, it's on Tuesday. No, not on Monday, but on Tuesday. I made a mistake. I will fix it. Yeah, it should be on Tuesday. It should cover only 2.6 and 2.7. Okay, now, let's do question number one. Let's do that question. Okay, you have fx is equal to x minus 2 square. So the question is graph and find the domain and the range. That's it. So to graph this one, and remember we have fx is equal to x squared. So the way you graph this one is, everybody know it, it's just the parabola, just like this, right? So now, so the way you graph this one is just like this. What happened? Okay, we are graphing this one now. Oh, sorry, I know my graphing is not good. Okay, let's graph this one. Okay, this one is y is equal to x squared. Okay, now, so let's graph now. Graph fx is equal to x minus 2 square. How you graph it? Now, put the x in, substitute x, you substitute x to x minus 2. So you can check here, you will have a shift from x squared to 2 unit to the right, okay? Is a shift of y is equal to x squared, okay? 2 units to the right. And that's it. And just graph it now. Now, since it's 2 units to the right, so you have this one. So the graph will look exactly like this. And you have here y, and you have x, and you have 0. Now, from here, it will shift 2 units to the right. Then is 2 here, and move the graph here. And the graph will look exactly like this. And that one is just x minus 2 square. Got it? And do the same thing here. You have 1 here, and you have 2 here. Since it shifts to 2 units to the right, so the graph looks exactly like this. That's the graph will look. This one is just fx is equal to x minus 2 square. And that's it. Now, what about the domain? The domain and the range. Okay. The domain for this one, if you have to check the x-axis, the domain is all real numbers. Okay? All real numbers. It's just negative infinity and infinity. Now the range you have to check only on the y-axis, only on here. And check the graph. You can tell now the graph is stored from 0 to infinity. That's the range. So the range will be just 2, and 2 is include, okay, to infinity. Why 2 is included? Because if 2 equals 0, you have fx equals 0. And that's it. That's the way you have to graph the first one. Everybody got it? Now let's do the second one. Make sure you take a picture or write down somewhere, okay? Okay, let me do the second one. And the second one I have to raise here. Very quick, I have to raise everything here. And now let me do the second one. Okay, the second one, let's take this one. Let me take this one here, copy it, and paste it here. Okay, let's do this one so we can have a more space here, and let's grab this one. So you can have you can think about fx equal a y square. No, square root of x. So okay, now the way you grab this one, you have to think about. Remember, we did in class about fx is equal to square root of x, and we know if they ask you to graph this one, everybody know it. It's just the way you graph this one. It's just here. You start to 0 and you go like this. This is fx is equal to square root of x. Okay. It's that way, and just make sure you put the arrow. Please, I forget to put the arrow, the first one. Put the arrow, please. And put the arrow here. This is the graph for just this one. Okay? Now, how you can graph now? Graph fx is equal to square root of x plus 2. So here you have to do the same thing, but this case is a translation. So you have to translate to 2 units, okay, from the left. Why? Because this one you can rewrite, okay, you can rewrite as, you can rewrite this one as square root of x negative parenthesis negative 2. Okay, see, that's the way you have to understand the way. You should have always negative sign here between x and the number, or between y and the number, always. Okay, so here you can tell the graph will move from, will translate 2 units to the left. Okay, it's just we obtain, okay, let's see, we obtain the graph of fx is equal to square root of x plus 2, okay, by we obtain that graph by translating trans is TAN, translating, okay, just by translating the that function, okay, that function, you have to translate that function fx is equal to square root of x 2 unit, okay, 2 units to the left. And it does make sense, because why is 2 units to the left? Because you have a negative sign here, is negative 2. That's why you have to go to the left here, okay? If here was just x minus 2 square root of this one, you have to translate this one 2 units to the right, okay? But since you have a parenthesis here, and you have a negative sign here, and you have a negative sign here, then it is translate to the left 2 units, okay? To the left. Good. Now let's do this one now. And the way you graph this one is here. You did this one, you have x and you have y here. And now you have just to move this one to the left 2 units. So you have 1, negative 1, and negative 2 here, for example. So to graph this one, it's just here. You move this one like this, and you have fx, this one, that graph is just fx is equal to square root of x plus 2. That's it. Okay, now let's do now the domain and the range. Domain and the range is what and what. Okay, if you look at the domain, the graph will start from negative 2, and negative 2 is close. The domain is -2 to infinity, and the range is on the y-axis. It's from 0 to infinity. It's from 0, 0 have to be close to infinity. Okay? Why does that have to be close? Because if you substitute x by 0 here, if you substitute x by 0 here, you will have a square root of 2, and square root of 2, it does exist. That's why you have close here. Okay? Close mean it belong. 0 belong to the interval. Okay, and that's it. Okay, that's it for problem number 1b. Okay, now let's pick 1c. Okay, let's do 1c now and check what we should get. Okay, you have 1c now. Okay, let's do 1c. 1c now is kind of easy. The only things you have to think about it is when you have, remember when you have fx is square cubic of x to the square cubic of 3. This one is just 1x to the 1 over 3. It's the same thing. You can write down as a power, and the power is 1 over 3, or you can write down as a cubic, like this. Either way is good. Either way is the same, okay? Now, you can choose the point to graph it, or you can just do it directly here. Okay, it will look exactly like this. Okay, you can just let me change it here. Okay, you will have just like that. Yeah. Okay, no, okay, just like this. Okay, so here you have square cubic of x. That's the function. Now, how you can graph this one now? You have fx is equal to square cubic of x minus 1, 3. Now, since the difference between the number and the x is negative sign, then it will shift. It will translate to 1 unit to the right, and that's it. And then here, you move to the right 1 unit, and then you will translate it just like this. You got this one, okay? It's exactly like this. The graph will look exactly like this. And this one is just fx is equal to square cubic of x minus 1. That's it. So now the domain and the range, the domain D and the range are, domain is all real numbers. You can tell all real numbers mean negative infinity, infinity. And the range, you check the y-axis. In the y-axis, any number you pick, you will have a graph. And then it's just same thing, negative infinity and infinity. Okay. C is easy. C is fine. Okay. And now let's do the next one. Good. Let's do the next one now for C, D. Let's do the D. Okay. Let's do the D one. And let's check it. Okay. Let's do the D1. So the D is here. So now remember how the question asking is how you can graph this one. Okay. The way you have to graph this one, you have to remember step by step. So you have fx first. See, you have x squared. Remember, suppose you have fx is equal to x squared. You know x squared, the way you graph it is like this. Okay? Okay, bear with me. So the way you graph it is like this. Now, you have a negative sign, meaning you have to go down to 1. But Remember, you have to set it equal as 0 first to find the points where you have the graph intersect the x-axis. It's called the x-intercept. X-intercept, found the x-intercept. Found first the x-intercept, and the way you found the x-intercept is fx equal as 0. So you will have from here, you have x squared minus 1 absolute value equal as 0. So here you will have just x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay? And here you will have x minus 1 times x plus 1 is equal to 0. You will have x equal to 1, or, be careful, put the or x equal to minus 1. Okay. Now, either way in our graph, you will have this. We know we will have this. Now we should be good. Okay. We will have this in our graph. We will have this. We will have y and x. So now we have 1 here, and you will have a negative 1. Okay. So now remember we have a 1 and negative 1 here. Oh, let me move it here. Let me move it here. Okay. Now, pick any point between negative 1 and 1. What it should say about x squared minus 1. If you pick any point between negative 1 and 1, pick, for example, 0. If you pick 0, you have negative 1. Absolute value of negative 1 is 1. Got it? Any point you pick between negative 1 and 1, any point you pick between those 2 points, you will have x squared minus 1 has to be always, since it's positive, but any point you pick here, it will be always a negative number. Okay? And if you take the absolute value of the negative number, you have a positive number, of course. But the main things I want to tell you, any point you pick between negative 1 and 1, x squared minus 1 is negative. Now, remember here. Remember what I told you here about the graph of this one, of x squared is just, x squared is here, it's a parabola. Now, check here. You have to move on the right side 1 unit. And remember, this one is x minus 1 times x plus 1. The right and the left, you move it to 1 unit, you will have this. And remember, any point you pick here, it will be a negative sign. And negative, absolute value of negative sign will be positive. So here, since it's parabola, it will go like this, and here it will go like this. Okay? Everybody got that one? Any question? Just let me know. That's the way you have to graph it. Any point you pick here, it would be a negative number. If you take the absolute value, it would be positive. Okay? And you have x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. Set it equal to 0. You have x equal to positive negative 1. That's why you got that one. It has to be a positive number. You won't care about the negative sign, the negative number. You just care about the positive number. Okay? Good. And you can think about this one like this. It will go exactly like this, but you don't need this one. You only need that one. Because it's parabola, it will go like this. It will go like this. And you only need this one. Because between them, you have, they will intersect. Good. And now let's find the domain and the range. The domain of the function is domain and the range. If you check the domain of the function is all real numbers, and if you check the range, it's just 0 and infinity. Why is 0 and infinity? Because we only, by looking at the graph, you know the graph is positive. Why? Because you have an absolute value, fx equal to absolute value of x squared minus 1. And that's it. Okay, that's it for D. You have a D here, and now let's do the E. And let's graph the E here. We graph the E. Okay, now we have to graph this one and find the domain and the range for this one. Okay, let's graph this one. Here is easy because again, if you have x squared, fx is equal to x squared, you have a parabola, it's just like this. Okay, start to 0, it go like this. So here is the parabola, x squared. Now, fx is equal to x squared plus 1. You have to move up the graph to 1 unit. Move it up to 1 unit, okay? That's why you have a plus 1 here. Plus 1 means you have to move it up to 1 unit, okay? Move it up, you have here, you have 1 unit, you have 1 here, 1, and you move the graph up. So here our graph will be exactly like this. For this one, you have 1 here, and you move the graph up to 1 unit. Up. And now you have fx here is just x squared plus 1. Again, plus 1 means you have to move up to 1 unit. Okay? If it was x minus 1 square, you have to shift. You have to translate the function to the right. 1 unit to the right. Okay? If it was a plus, no, now it's negative 1. X minus negative 1 is to the right to 1 unit. If it was x plus 1, you have to translate the graph to the left, 1 unit to the left. Okay, and that's it. Why is 1 unit to the left again? Because x plus 1 squared is just x minus parenthesis negative 1. Got it? And you have a square. Now x minus parenthesis negative 1, negative times negative is positive. That's why you have here positive. That's why you have x plus 1 square. So now the negative sign means you have to move to the left side. That's the meaning. Okay? That's the meaning for this one. Okay, good. And that's it. And now to find the domain and the range, the domain is all real numbers, negative infinity and infinity. And the range is just 1 and infinity. If you check the range is just this side, from here to here. You only care about the x-axis, not the y-axis. That's the range. And the domain is all real numbers. It's here. Okay? Good. And that's it. Let me do the next video.